Imagine for a second the idea of a musical collision. And I don't mean, a nice duet where two pop stars just sing a chorus at each other. I mean a real collision.
Right. The kind that makes you wonder if everyone's going to make it out of the studio in one piece.
Exactly. So you take, say, an experimental Italian rock band, something kind of jagged, atmospheric,
A little dark,
and you smash it together with American art pop weirdness. And then you physically lock them in a studio in Turin, Italy, and just see what happens.
It sounds like the setup for a really niche reality TV show. But in music, when we talk about these collisions, the industry loves to use that term, supergroup.
Ah, the supergroup, yes.
And that word, it brings up a very specific image, doesn't it? You think of massive ego stadium rock guys from the 70s trying to recapture some magic.
It's the traveling Wilburys model.
Totally. It's often more about the marketing event than the actual art. It's like the Avengers, but for classic rock.
Well, today we are looking at a supergroup of a very different kind. We're going to do a deep dive into a project called XXL.
A fitting name, I think. Maybe not for commercial weight, but definitely for artistic weight.
And the album we're dissecting is their 2005 debut, Ciaütistico. Now, looking at our source material here, the credits, the track list, the reviews, the first thing that jumps out is, who even is XXL?
It's actually a literal equation. XXL is what you get when you add Larsen to Xiu Xiu.
Just smashed together.
Yep. Larsen, the Italian experimental rock band, and Xiu Xiu, the American art pop band. They didn't overthink the name, which I appreciate.
Me too. It's efficient.
Yeah.
So, okay, the mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've got this album, Ciaütistico, recorded in 2005. It's post-rock, it's experimental, it's got a cover of an 80s new wave hit.
It's a lot. It is a lot. And our goal here is to figure out how this whole cross-continental experiment worked. We're going to look at the credits, the very strange track list, the reception, and see if this collision was, a masterpiece or just a train wreck.
Because it could go either way.
Oh, easily. Putting two experimental bands in a room doesn't guarantee gold. Sometimes you just get noise.
So let's start with the setting. We mentioned Italy, but the source says it was recorded specifically at Larsen's own studio in Turin.
And that detail it's crucial. Think about the dynamic. If you meet on neutral ground, like a rented studio in London, everyone's a guest.
Everyone is trying to figure out the coffee machine.
Exactly. But here, you, the Americans, they flew to Larsen's home turf.
So Larsen has the home field advantage.
In a way, yeah. They're comfortable, they know the room, they know how the drums sound in that corner. It forces the guests, Jamie Stewart and Caralee McElroy from Xiu Xiu, to adapt to the host's environment.
It definitely changes the power dynamic a bit.
Absolutely. You're not just jamming, you're entering their world. And for this kind of music, that feeling of being a little displaced, that can be really valuable.
Speaking of being unmoored, the timeline here is wild to me. The notes say the album was recorded in May of 2005.
That's right.
And it was released on September 20, 2005.
Mm-hmm.
That is incredibly fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for a standard indie release, you're talking a year, maybe more. You've got marketing, mixing, mastering. May to September, that's 4 months.
It's so rapid. It suggests a really raw, immediate process. They didn't sit on these tapes for a year and tinker. They just captured the moment in Turin, packaged it up, and sent it out on important records.
Which is a great name for a label, by the way.
Sets a high bar right. This isn't just a record, it's an important record. But that speed, it really speaks to the genre. This is post-rock and experimental rock.
And you don't want to over-polish that.
You can't. If you polish experimental rock too much, you rub off all the interesting jagged edges, the imperfections, the room noise. That's the good stuff.
So let's dig into that sound. When you hear post-rock, you're probably thinking long instrumentals, maybe some drones, weird time signatures.
You're on the right track. And the source material says the album is largely instrumental.
But, and this is where it gets really interesting for me, it's not entirely instrumental. They rationed out the vocals to very specific tracks.
And that's such a great production choice. If every track has a singer, the voice just becomes another instrument. It's furniture.
Right.
But if it only shows up on, say, 4 tracks out of 9, then it's an event. You really pay attention.
It's like a cameo in a movie. You sit up when that character walks on screen.
Precisely. And let's look at who's singing, because it's broken down in a really specific way. You've got Caralee McElroy and Jamie Stewart, both from the Xiu Xiu side of things.
Okay, so looking at the list, Caralee McElroy handles the first 2 tracks. She's on Pa-pa, 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 pa.
Hang on. How many paws was that?
Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pa-pa-pa-pa-pa-pa.
Nailed it.
I practiced. So she sings on that one, and also on track 2,
Yeah.
Minnie Mouse's Stick.
So she basically opens the album. She's the first voice you hear.
And then, vocally, she's done. That's when Jamie Stewart steps in later.
Right. On track 4, which is Pochi e Mignocchi, and then again on track 7, Prince Charming.
We absolutely have to circle back to Prince Charming. But just sticking with the structure, what does that tell you? These little vocal drops in an instrumental C.
It tells me the album structure is deliberate. This isn't just a jam session. They're telling a story, and the human voice is used for specific emotional punctuation. And look at the music credits.
Oh, yeah.
The lyrics are mostly Jamie Stewart, but the music itself is credited to Xiu Xiu Larsen.
As one entity, no and.
Exactly. No ampersand, no comma, just one name. It implies this total melding of the bands into a single organism.
That's a really cool detail. It's not, here's the Larsen part and here's the Xiu Xiu part. It's just a soup.
A minestrone, if we want to stick with the Turin theme.
I love a good minestrone. And speaking of Italian food, did you catch track 4? Macchiam or gnocchi?
I did. They were definitely leaning into the location with these titles.
Okay. We have to talk about track 7, Prince Charming.
Yes.
Yeah.
The dandy in the room.
This just jumped out at me from the notes. We're talking about an experimental avant-garde album. It's moody, it's atmospheric, and sitting right there is a cover of a 1981 hit by Adam and the Ants.
It is a major curveball.
And Prince Charming isn't some obscure B-side. That was a huge new wave pop song.
Okay.
Written by Stuart Goddard, Adam Ant, and Marco Perrone. It's so theatrical and flamboyant.
Creates this amazing cognitive dissonance. You've got this dark instrumental texture, and then bam, you're dealing with the legacy of 80s pop.
So why do you think a band like this would pick that song?
Well, in experimental music, covers are rarely just tributes. They're more like interrogations.
An interrogation.
Yeah, they take the song apart to see how it works, or they twist it into something totally unrecognizable. The arrangement credit is listed as Xiu Xiu Larsen, so you know they didn't just play it straight.
They deconstructed it.
Totally. They probably stripped it down to the studs. When you run a bright, loud pop song through the filter of an Italian post-rock band and an American art pop band, you're probably going to end up with something that sounds like a haunted memory of the original.
I would love to know what that actually sounds like.
Yeah.
The source doesn't say, but just the fact that it exists is amazing. It suggests they had a sense of humor.
That's a great point. Experimental music can get a bad rap for being too serious, very dour, covering Adam and the Ants. It suggests they were actually having fun in that studio.
And speaking of fun, or at least eccentricity, the rest of the track titles are a journey.
They really are.
We've got the 7 Paws, but we also have Distorted Duck.
Track 5.
Distorted Duck. I mean, what does that even mean? Is it a metaphor? Does it sound like a duck?
With this kind of music from this era, it could very well be a literal sample of a duck that they ran through a distortion pedal.
I would not put it past them.
Or it's just a nonsense phrase that's stuck.
Yeah.
But it sets a tone. It tells you, don't get comfortable. We might throw a duck at you.
And then there's Lipstick Fair, which is the shortest track.
Just over a minute. 1:14.
A little blast. And then there's the title track. Well, sort of. Track 3 is Ciaütistico,
A little play on the album title, Ciaütistico.
which I'm guessing is a mashup of ciao and something else.
It seems like a portmanteau. Ciao, the Italian greeting, and autistico, which is Italian for autistic. It's a made-up word. Feels like an inside joke from the recording sessions.
It sounds like Spanglish, but for Italian.
I tell Gush. Let's not make that a thing. But yes, it reflects that linguistic collision in the studio.
We also mentioned that Jamie Stewart wrote almost all the lyrics, but the notes point out one really important exception.
Yes. Track 2, Minnie Mouse's Stick.
The lyrics for that one were written by Marco Schiavo.
And Marco Schiavo is from Larsen. So here you see the collaboration bleeding right into the songwriting. It's not just Jamie writes the words, everyone plays.
Right, but who sings it?
Caralee McElroy from Xiu Xiu.
So you have a Larsen member writing the lyrics and a Xiu Xiu member singing them. That's the definition of a true collaboration.
It totally blurs the lines. You can't point to that track and say, that's the American part or that's the Italian part. It's just XXL.
And then, to cap it all off, we get the closer.
Yeah.
Track 9, Sunday.
The epic.
7 minutes and 6 seconds. It's the longest track on the album by a pretty wide margin.
Which is very traditional for post-rock. You end with a long building piece that kind of resolves all the tension. You spend 35 minutes on Distorted Ducks and Adam Ant covers.
And then you give the listener 7 minutes to just breathe.
Exactly. Ending with a song called Sunday.
It has a certain feeling, doesn't it? The end of the week. maybe a bit of melancholy, the Sunday scaries.
It feels like the come down after the party, a chance to digest everything you just heard.
Right, it's the period at the end of the sentence.
So we have this weird, wonderful album from 2005, made in 4 months, in Turin on important records. The big question is, did anyone actually care? What was the reception like? Well, we have one major data point from the source: Pitchfork Media.
Ah, the gatekeepers of 2005 indie rock.
For sure, back then, a Pitchfork review could make or break a band's career. They were the authority.
So what did the authority say?
They gave the album a 7.0 out of 10.
7.0.
Yeah.
Okay. In Pitchfork terms, that's pretty respectable.
It's what we call the Gentleman's 7.
The Gentleman's 7. I like that.
It basically means this is a good record. It does what it set out to do. You should listen to it, but maybe it didn't, change the course of music history.
So a solid, successful experiment.
Exactly. Not a flop at all. And honestly, for a project this weird, a 7.0 is a win. It's validation that the experiment actually worked.
And we have proof that it worked beyond just a review score. Right?
Yeah.
Because this wasn't the end of XXL.
No, and this is really important context. A lot of these collaborations are just one-offs. They get together, they record, and they go their separate ways.
Or they just get busy with their main bands.
Right. But XXL came back. The source lists their chronology. Ciaütistico was the debut in '05, but they released a follow-up album, Speakeology, in 2007.
So the chemistry was good enough that they decided to do it all over again.
It legitimized XXL as a real band, not just a side project. It meant that this new third identity they created actually had more to say.
I love that. It turns this album from a weird curiosity into chapter 1 of a real story.
It does. It shows they were committed to the whole thing.
So let's zoom out. We've got the who, the where, the what, Larsen and Xiu Xiu, a studio in Italy, Distorted Ducks. Why does this matter? Why should someone listening right now care about this album from 2005?
I think it matters because it represents this moment of, real cultural openness. You have two very different bands from two different countries who decided that the sum could be greater, or at least stranger, than the parts.
It's the idea that you don't just feature a guest, you create a whole new thing with them.
Precisely. And it challenges the ego of the artist. To make this work, everyone had to give up a little bit of control. Larsen had to let these Americans into their space and mess with their sound.
It's a real lesson in collaboration. You have to be vulnerable. You have to let the other person mess with your stuff.
And for you, as a listener, it's a reminder that some of the most interesting art happens in the margins. This wasn't a chart topper. It didn't win a Grammy. It's this 40-minute slab of weirdness that you might miss if you aren't looking for it.
It really does reward digging a little deeper. Looking at a source like this, it's really just a stub. We have the facts.
Yeah.
We know it was recorded in May, released in September. We know the track lengths down to the second.
You have all the metadata.
But there's so much we don't know. That phrase, largely instrumental, it's doing so much work. What actually happens in those wordless minutes? That's the mystery.
And that's the beauty of it. We have the scaffolding, the dates, the names, the track list, but the actual texture of the sound in that room in Turin, that's left for you to fill in. We can analyze the data, but you can't replicate the feeling of hearing Distorted Duck for the first time without just pressing play.
The map is not the territory.
Exactly. We've given you the map, we've pointed out the landmarks, but you still have to take the hike.
And keep an eye out for Adam Ant's covers.
And the ducks. Don't forget the ducks.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive into XXL. Go find something weird to listen to today.
Until next time.
See ya.